explore this question. Thank you so much for joining me, Claire. I mean, I'll start with this very big question. Do you think our institutions have been captured by activist ideologies?
Well, there's always a danger of sounding conspiratorial, and I know you're going to discuss that elsewhere when you kind of say that they've been captured. But I do think that in a kind of careless way, a lot of unelected NGOs and what look to be sort of charities and harmless organisations with the best will of fighting for equality and inclusion and diversity have inveigled their way into institutions, and institutions have thought, oh, well, we're pro-diversity and inclusion, we'll say yes to that. Mm-hmm. And then they're going on training courses, and suddenly they've basically incorporated and institutionalised and internalised, without even noticing, an ideological approach to something like gender or sex. But the same is true, I think, in relation to green policies and also in relation to race policies in particular. Mm-hmm. And so, in that sense, without anyone noticing, you suddenly find these peculiar stories emerging. You know, how did it get to the point where 2-year-olds are being asked about gender, not biological sex? And then you find out it's been a long-running, behind-the-scenes policy, and it's not in the public view, so people don't even have any democratic way of saying we don't agree with that.
So what are some of the kind of processes and practices employed? So we've seen about kind of training programs, a diversity champion scheme. Some people have argued it's almost judge, jury and executioner effectively for these policies.
So you can imagine a situation where an institution wanting to be on top of diversity policies signs up to something like universities are signing up, lots of them, to advance HE, for example, because they want to be given a good score in the Race Equality Charter, which is an entirely made-up charter, by the way, by Advance HE. But they think that's a good idea. Or with Stonewall, they think, well, I'm on the side of oppressed groups. I want to ensure that people think that we will be doing the right thing. So they sign up. They give some money over, and then that organisation will say, well, we've now audited your anti-racism, your the problem that you have with white supremacy, the problem you have with transphobia and so on. You do that, and then you say, well, we can run training courses for you. And then you say, oh, well, we better get our staff on training courses. They then have these, the worst thing that they have is they have these kind of lists where they say, oh, well, right, you feature as 132 on the list of the best universities on their trans issues or on race issues or what have you. And imagine the HR department said, we don't want to be 132, we want to be 100 or number one. Yeah. And so they say, what do we need to do to Stonewall or whoever? And they say, oh, do another course, or all you need to do is this. Why don't you introduce pronouns? They should be kind of mandated that everyone talks about their pronouns, and so on and so forth. So it becomes an endless array. To a large extent, there is never even a discussion in those institutions. There might well be some advocates, enthusiastic zealots in the organisation, but I don't think it's as conscious of that. I actually think it just becomes part of a process of being seen to be doing the right thing. I mean, I hate the phrase woke, as it happens. It kind of gets too crudely used. But you do know that institutions want to be seen to be doing the right thing, and they want to appeal to younger constituencies and so on and so forth. So that's why they do it. Best intentions, terrible outcomes.